By reason, we infer that there is some cause or principle of the phenomena, and that is popularly called gravity. But since the cause of the fall of the body is unseen and unknown, gravity in that usage cannot properly be styled a sensible quality. It is, therefore, an occult, a hidden, a mysterious quality. This occult quality is an abstract term that explains nothing beyond what is observed. If you try to define gravity, then you will always end up referring back to its effects or to some other occult abstract principle. Abstract terms like this explain nothing. In science, the mind should be fixed on the particular and the concrete, that is, on the things themselves. Force is another abstract term that is also attributed to bodies, and that word is used as if it meant a known quality, one distinct from motion, figure, and every other sensible qualities, as well as every affection of any living thing. In this usage, when divorced from all sensible features of the body and the action of any living being, it is also an occult quality. Obviously, then, it is idle to lay down gravity or force as the principle of motion. Again, force, gravity, and terms of that sort are more often used in the concrete, and rightly so, as to connote the body in motion or the effort of resisting. But when they are used by philosophers to signify certain natures carved out and abstracted from all these things, natures which are not objects of sense, nor can be grasped by any force of intellect, nor pictured by the imagination, then indeed they breed error and confusion. Paragraph 7 to 16 consists of various examples of confusion and error as a result of what Berkeley deems as excessive abstraction. Force, gravity, attraction, and terms of this sort are useful for reasonings and reckonings about bodies in motion, but not for understanding the simple nature of motion itself, or for indicating so many distinct qualities. As for attraction, it was certainly introduced by Newton, not as a true physical quantity, but only as a mathematical hypothesis. Indeed, Leibniz, when distinguishing elementary effort or solicitation from impetus, admits that those entities are not really found in nature, but have to be formed by abstraction. Berkeley then provides the following analogy in paragraph 18. A similar account must be given of the composition and resolution of any direct forces into any oblique ones by means of the diagonal and sides of the parallelogram. They serve the purpose of mechanical science and reckoning, but to be of service to reckoning and mathematical demonstrations is one thing, to set forth the nature of things is another. All those who, to explain the cause of motion, make use of the hylarchic principle, or of a nature's want or appetite, or indeed of a natural instinct, are to be considered as having said something rather than thought it. All these, indeed, either say nothing particular or determinate, or if there is anything in what they say, it will be as difficult to explain as the very thing it was brought forward to explain. There are two supreme classes of things, body and soul. Berkeley discusses this with reference to Anaxagoras, Aristotle, Descartes, Newton, the Bible. Newton's laws of motion confirm bodies are passive in regards to motion. Newton's first law states a body is passive unless acted upon by an external force. Rest and constant velocity are indistinguishable from one another. Hence, a body is indifferent to motion. All that we know to which could be given the name body contains nothing in itself which could be the principle of motion or its efficient cause. If we review singly qualities of a body, we shall see they are all in fact passive, and there is nothing active in them which can in any way be understood as the source or principle of motion. Besides corporeal things, there is another class, thinking things, and that there is in them the power of moving bodies, we have learned by personal experience. Since our minds at will can stir and stay the movement of our limbs, whatever be the ultimate explanation of the fact. This is certain, that bodies are moved by the will of the mind, and accordingly the mind can be called, correctly enough, a principle of motion. And to live, what is it but to move oneself, to stop, and to change one's state? While Newton's laws clearly state bodies are indifferent to motion, the contrary is the case with the mind. We feel it as a faculty of altering both our state and that of other things, and that is properly called vital, and puts a wide distinction between soul and bodies. Modern thinkers consider motion and rest in bodies as two states of existence, in either of which every body, without pressure from external force, would naturally remain passive. Whence one might gather that the cause of the existence of bodies is also the cause of their motion and rest. For no other cause of the successive existence of a body in different parts of space should be sought, it would seem, than the successive existence of the body in different parts of time, given that rest is indistinguishable from constant velocity. The true and efficient and conserving cause of all things by supreme right is called their font and principle. Berkeley is assuming knowledge of Aristotle's four causes. The efficient cause, that which makes anything to be or to be done. It is not the business of physics or mechanics to establish efficient causes, but only the laws of motion, and from the established laws to assign the solution, not the efficient cause of the particular phenomena. In mechanical philosophy, those are to be called principles, in which the whole discipline is grounded and contained, those primary laws of motion which have been proven by experiments, elaborated by reason, and rendered universal. These laws of motion are conveniently called principles, since from them are derived both general mechanical theorems and particular explanations of the phenomena. For once the laws of nature have been found out, then it is the philosopher's, the scientist's task to show that each phenomena is in constant conformity with those laws, that is, necessarily follows from those principles. In that consists the explanation and solution of the phenomena. The human mind delights in extending and expanding its knowledge, and for this purpose general notions and propositions have to be formed, in which particular propositions and cognitions are in some way comprised, which then, and not till then, are believed to be understood. Geometers know this well. In mechanics, also, notions are premised, definitions and general statements about motion from which, by mathematical method, conclusions more remote and less general are deduced. And just as geometers, for the sake of their art, make use of many devices which they themselves cannot describe nor find in the nature of things, even so the scientist makes use of certain abstract and general terms, imagining in bodies, forces, action, attraction, which are of first utility for theories and formulations, as also for computations about motion, even if in the truth of things and in bodies actually existing, they would be looked for in vain, just like the geometer's fictions made by mathematical abstraction. We actually perceive by the aid of the senses nothing except the effects or sensible qualities in corporeal things entirely passive, whether in motion or at rest. And reason and experience advise us that there is nothing active except mind or soul. Whatever else is imagined must be considered to be a kind with other hypotheses and mathematical abstractions. This ought to be laid to heart, otherwise we are in danger of sliding back into the obscure subtlety of the schoolman, which for so many ages, like some dread plague, has corrupted philosophy. Metaphysical principles, real efficient causes, and the existence of bodies or of their physical attributes in no way belong to mechanics or experiment, except so far as being known beforehand, they may serve to define the limits of physics. If anyone were to extend the natural philosophy beyond the limits of experiments and mechanics, so as to cover a knowledge of incorporeal and inextended things, that broader interpretation of the term permits a discussion of soul, mind, or vital principle. But it will be more convenient to follow the usage which is fairly well accepted, and so to distinguish between the sciences as to confine each to its own bounds. Thus, the natural philosopher or scientist should concern himself primarily with experiments, laws of motions, mechanical principles, and reasonings thence deduced.